The Grateful Crane. Once upon a time, in a small village in Japan, there lived a kind and humble farmer named Takashi. Takashi lived alone, tending to his rice fields and always helping others whenever they needed a hand. One winter evening, as Takashi was returning home through the snow-covered forest, he heard a faint cry. Following the sound, he found a beautiful white crane trapped in a hunter's net. Feeling pity for the bird, Takashi carefully untangled the net and set the crane free. The crane looked at him with gratitude in its eyes and flew away into the night sky. Several days later, during another snowy evening, Takashi heard a knock on his door. When he opened it, he found a lovely young woman standing there, shivering from the cold. She introduced herself as Yukiko and asked if she could stay the night. Being kind-hearted, Takashi welcomed her into his home and shared his warm meal with her. The next morning, Yukiko offered to help Takashi around the house in gratitude for his hospitality. As days turned into weeks, she stayed on, and they became close friends. Yukiko was skilled at weaving, and one day she asked Takashi to bring her some thread and promised to weave something special. However, she made him promise never to peek while she worked. Takashi agreed, and every day Yukiko would lock herself in a small room, weaving tirelessly. After a week, she emerged with a beautiful, radiant piece of cloth that shimmered like the feathers of a crane. She told Takashi to sell it at the market, and he did, earning a good sum of money. The villagers were amazed by the cloth, and Takashi's fortune began to change. Yukiko continued to weave the magical cloth, and each time, Takashi sold it for a high price. However, curiosity began to gnaw at him. He wondered how Yukiko could create such extraordinary fabric. One day, unable to contain his curiosity, Takashi peeked through a small crack in the door. To his astonishment, he saw a crane weaving the cloth, plucking its own feathers to create the radiant fabric. He gasped, and the crane immediately turned and saw him. In an instant, Yukiko reappeared, but now her eyes were filled with sadness. She explained that she was the crane he had saved, and she had transformed into a human to repay his kindness. But now that he had broken his promise, she had to leave. With tears in her eyes, Yukiko transformed back into a crane and flew away, never to return. Takashi was heartbroken, but he learned a valuable lesson. Trust and keeping promises are essential. From that day on, he cherished the memories of Yukiko and continued to live a life of kindness and humility, always remembering the grateful crane who had touched his life. Moral: trust and keeping promises are fundamental. When you break someone's trust, you might lose something precious.